All right. Well, I think it is go time. So I have the opportunity to welcome you all. Hello, and thank you so much for joining. And again, for taking time out of your very busy schedules to join us this afternoon. Today, we're going to be walking through our Kansas's, collective roadmap to end hunger and what we've built together, how it's progressing, and what's next. So for those of you who I haven't had an opportunity to meet yet, I'm Erika Debrick Kelly, and I am absolutely honored to serve as the first executive director of Hunger Free Kansas. Again, if I haven't had a chance to meet you, a little bit about me. I am a sixth generation Kansan. I am from Miami County, just south of Kansas City, and I have spent the majority of my professional career advocating on behalf of older adults and families struggling with hunger and food insecurity. I have worked on Capitol Hill. I've worked for a national organization representing community-based nutrition programs, Meals on Wheels America, and have done a number of other things in my time as well. So just a long way of saying that this work is absolutely in my DNA. It's just a part of who I am, and it's just the highest privilege to be in it with all of you and at this really critical time to be supporting thousands of Kansans and to ensure that they have the nutrition that they need to live a healthier life and that higher quality of life. And I think we all know on this call, we cannot live a full life on an empty stomach. And so that's a big part of what this work is about. I'm also delighted to be joined by my partner, Drew Wilburne, Director of Civic Life and Policy at the Kansas Health Foundation. And I don't think he can claim to be a multi-generation Kansan, but I know that he is fully bought in and loves this state so much and as much as me. So Drew, I'll turn things over to you so you can introduce yourself a bit more and then we'll welcome the rest of the crew here on this webinar today. So Drew, take it away.
Thank you so much, Erica. And hey, everyone, it's so good to see so many familiar faces. Again, my name is Drew Wilburne. I am not a lifelong Kansan, and you can resent me for that fact. But I am very much a Kansan now, and so much so that my parents moved here just a couple years ago. So our whole contingency is relocated from Pennsylvania, and Kansas is our home, and we're so glad to be here. And one of the reasons we're glad to be here is because of this important work. And so, yeah, prior to my time here at the Health Foundation, I worked in state government where I was exposed and helped guide the strategy and the delivery of a whole lot of food programs and nutrition programs, anything from Older Americans Act services with the Pennsylvania Department of Aging to SNAP program at the Department of Human Services. So I really feel like this work is a continuation of stuff that I've been involved in the past, and really grateful to be doing it all. So back to you, Erica.
Okay, well, thanks, Drew. I think as we're getting to know folks here on today's webinar and looking forward to, being in the trenches, so to speak, and advancing this policy blueprint that we're going to be talking about. I also thought it might be a little bit fun for folks to get to know us both, Drew, and I know you and I we have a shared love of music, and you're an actual musician. I'm an aspiring one, and I also say if you can't sing, you just haven't found your song yet. So I have a question for you, Drew. If you had a theme song, what do you think it would be? And for folks in the joining us, feel free to add in the chat if you have a particular song that feels like your theme song for life.
Okay, so this one's really not going to make a whole lot of sense. But I don't know that it's a theme song for my life, but it's one that I've been listening to a lot lately. I don't know how
Okay.
familiar folks are with the Gap Band, but the song You Dropped the Bomb on Me has been on my playlist these past couple months over and over and over again. It has no relevance whatsoever to our societal and cultural issues
Yeah.
right now, but it's just a song that I love so very much. And it was also a song like in high school I really got into, so it's kind of
Okay.
reappeared throughout my life
Okay.
over time, and it's back in action right now, and I've been streaming it a bunch.
Okay, well, there you go. Heard it first from Drew. I think mine would be Lovely Day, Bill Withers, you know. So that comes top of mind for me. And Drew, I did mention, and we all here on this webinar again today are really dealing with a lot of challenges, and so it's so important to that we find time to recharge or take in some of life's comforts. So I was curious too if folks have, and you in particular, Drew, if there's a comfort food, that you turn to after a long day of advocacy and policy work, or a way that you like to, recharge when you're not fighting to improve the health of all Kansans. So any thoughts on those two questions?
Delighted to answer to it, and also delighted with some of these responses in the chat. Favorite songs,
Yeah. I
Eileen with
know.
"Come On Eileen." It's like too easy.
Y- Yeah.
I'm a little jealous. Anyway, um,
Yeah.
for me, one of the other benefits of having my parents move to the area is I get to still eat some of my mother's cooking. So she was not
Um,
a huge cook growing up, but she does have a chili that her grandmother made that I also get to benefit from the recipe of. And so that chili has been a special thing for me pretty much my entire life, and I still get to experience it here today. And that'd be number one for me. How about you, Erica?
Oh gosh. I'm pretty basic. I love a good like cheese and cracker kind of situation. Some pimento cheese feels very comforting to me, or even like a Kraft American single, that's probably what I would go to. But and then I think, in terms of recharging, walks outside. Kansas has the best sunsets in the country, maybe even in the world, in my opinion. So that's probably my favorite way to recharge and unwind and to share those photos with family and friends. So what about you on the recharge? And again, welcome everyone to, we all need good tips. So yeah, Jasmine says the best sunsets. We do. We have the best sunsets.
Yeah, I think I mean the walks and the sunset stuff are it's real. I remember actually I was in Hawaii about October of last year, and going there, everyone was talking about how great the sunsets were. And I got there and I was like, I actually think Kansas has better sunsets than Hawaii. So dare I say it, I'm here to mark the spot in the ground and plant a flag on it. I think we do have the best sunsets in the country. And yeah, I would say just being able to go home and decompress with my family and walk around and enjoy nature, that's probably top of the list for me.
Awesome. Well, thanks for that little extra time, and so folks know a little bit about who we are, and so when they're reaching out, they can share a sunset photo, or ways good chili recipes and things like that. So, but let's get back to it in our agenda and why you all joined today. So, I really want to be able to cover, the history of the blueprint, and we'll go to our next slide when we have a chance. And we're going to be reviewing the blueprint, kind of introduction, again, the history of how we got here, what it took to build it, how many of you on this call were directly involved in that process. We want to review the specific goals and strategies together, some of those activities that are already underway, and are key areas of focus for this first year, and then also how we can really work together and what's next, and also want to leave that time for some Q&A. So with that, hopefully this is what you signed up for and you feel like you're in the right seat today. And so I'm going to turn things over really to Drew to kick things off, as so much of this, kind of the context and the formation of the blueprint began before I took on my role earlier this year, in the springtime, so of 2025. So Drew, I'll turn to you to kind of give that overview and context, to kick things off.
Thanks so much, Erica. So, yeah, folks, I just want to kind of ground us a little bit in like kind of the pre-work up until Fuse Kansas last year, where we started to really refine and hone in on what the blueprint would be. And I'm going to meander. I'm going to touch a little bit on some elements and leave some lay. But if there's things that folks want to, dig into in particular, we can absolutely do that. But I just want to go through a little bit of the brief background and get us grounded in that context before we kind of go through where we are now and the next steps that are right ahead of us. So first and foremost, the question is, why do we need this thing? Why is the blueprint something that even needed to come to fruition? And at KHF, at the Health Foundation, we found that shared vision is really a key to like game-changing action. And so for us to make progress on things, some type of mechanism that we can all use as a reference point or as a way to say, okay, this is where we're headed toward. We believe that that's an element. And what we also know is that there are versions of that in various levels of these systems. Maybe there's a version of this within inside of your own organization. There's others within regions. There's national versions of this. And one thing that we've talked about is how a blueprint needs to acknowledge and observe all of those other things, but also not be duplicative and not cause more chaos or division or anything of that nature. So what we were really trying to do is find a process that kind of honored some of the work that was out in the ether already, and that also gave some energy to either new or existing, but maybe lagging elements of this work as well. So to do that, we said, okay, how do we create something where we know where everyone else is kind of firing, and also it gives us some new room to experiment and to drive progress. And in order to do that, we thought, okay, there's got to be some principles that we operate by. Those are these 5 principles that are listed here on this slide, and I want to walk through them just really briefly. First one, practicality and feasibility. We have to live in reality, and we were like, we have to find things that we know can happen. If you're like me, I'm pretty idealist. I like systems to be totally revamped and refined in a way that I can see them working in full. And unfortunately, life does not operate that way. And so what we wanted to do was say, okay, what's the context that we operate in here? And how do we find things that can actually come to fruition? Number 2, inclusivity and collaboration. We, especially at the Health Foundation, know for a fact that there is no way that we can answer any of these questions or solve any of these problems on our own. And the more hands, the more heads, and the more hearts that we bring into the fold, the better, period, full stop. Next, sustainability and long-term impact. We understand that there's reasons to take care of emergencies, but we are really trying to aim and look for the long-term sustainable system changes that we can make. And we thought that was a really important element to kind of keep rooted at the base of this whole thing. Next would be accountability and data-driven decision-making, meaning how do we make sure that our solutions are data-informed? How do we make sure that our understanding of the problem is data-informed? And how do we make sure that data informs our decision-making without it causing us some type of paralysis in some way, shape, or form? And then lastly, and I kind of touched on this a little bit earlier, additive and complementary. And the reason that I've talked about this so much is it was really important to us. So is there some duplication or some overlap of things inside the blueprint that others are working on? Yes, absolutely. But we want it to be additive, not reductive in some way, shape, or form. Also, we want it to complement those efforts, not to detract from it. So that is the idea behind what we aim to put inside of the blueprint. And unless, Erika, there's anything on this slide that you wanted me to touch on, I think we can go to the next one. Cool. All right. History. This is kind of wild actually to think about. I don't want to educate folks or go down too much of a rabbit hole around the foundation's network mobilization approach. But what you're kind of seeing here is that come to fruition through the food work. So you can see here in 2023, we established an initiative called the Hunger-Free Kansas effort, and that established an advisory committee, many of which you all played a role on. And that is what kind of led us toward this or sent us in the direction of a shared blueprint. And so that group over time, we started to launch an effort to get input and evaluate various policies or things that we could enact or take on to make change in the state. And all of that work over several months led to the Fuse Kansas convening, which happened in 2025. And April, I can't even remember what date those were. Was it
February?
February of 2025. Thank you. I was going to say April. It is Fuse Kansas for next year is going to be in April of 2025 or 2026. So you heard it here first, folks. So in February of 2025, we all met together and refined that list even further. And then actually, even beyond that day, there was additional refinement with folks as well. So you can see that broad strokes from 2023, 2024, 2025, and even to today, that blueprint has been in some type of refinement all throughout that time. And so the idea was, okay, we need an entity, we need a container, we need somebody to pass the torch on to be able to kind of drive this forward. And that's not just one entity with Erika and the folks over at Hunger Free Kansas. That's everyone. But we needed somebody to be the main carrier and somebody to take the baton from us. And that's how we got to the point of saying, like, let's pass this off to these folks and let them take it from here. So that's just a rough overview of kind of like what's happened over these past couple of years. We can go to the next slide. Great. And you'll see here how things were actually built over that time. So step one, we have a collection review of all publicly available data related to food security in Kansas. Our friends over at the Kansas Health Institute said, okay, let's look at things statewide. They developed, I think it was like a 112-page report of all of the secondary data to review that. And that helped us generate some shared understanding around the problem. Next, we did these listening sessions with advocates, individuals, folks from all across Kansas about our most pressing challenges and all of the efforts that are in motion, the gaps in between. And that was a really solid foundation for us to say, okay, where are the areas that we need to kind of put some energy into? What are the things that actually some new life needs to be breathed into? And how do we kind of plan accordingly? Next was an analysis of over 400 new and existing strategies aimed at reducing hunger and eliminating food insecurity. This was daunting because what it was an effort to say, like, what are all the ideas that are like out in the ether or new ideas that we could bring to the table here? And again, going back to my point earlier about like viability, which of those can work here in Kansas? So we did our best to cast as wide of a net as possible so that over time we could refine and answer those questions and get down to the 20, the 10 systems changes that we wanted to make, and resulting in the final blueprint. Next, engagement with key organizations. That's all of you. And we refined a little bit further, taking that list down, like I said, from 400 to 60 to 40 over time, so that when we went into Fuse, we had, I think, about 18, 20 different options that we were kind of wrestling with there. So we gathered you all at Fuse. We drilled down, rolled our sleeves up and figured out what we needed to do. And finally came out with that final list of strategies, which is what you see in the blueprint here today. So before we go to the next slide, I know that that's a lot, and I know that a lot of you were there and present for it, and we're happy to kind of talk through any other details if folks want to. But before we do that, we want to go to this next slide here where we're going to play a little bit of a video to kind of recap what I just said and maybe touch on some other elements. So when folks are ready, we'll get that started and then we'll move on from there.
Kansas is at a turning point. The blueprint for a hunger-free Kansas lays out a path for accelerating progress on one of our most daunting challenges, ensuring no Kansan ever has to worry about where their next meal is coming from. During Fuse Kansas, leaders, advocates, and changemakers came together to shape strategies, grounded in data, refined through collaboration, and fueled by a shared commitment to addressing food insecurity. Together, we created a launchpad for action focused on 3 goals. We already know there's a problem. 1 in 8 Kansans are food insecure. But through improved collection and analysis of data, we can gain new insights and identify issues not yet known to us. And by modernizing technology, we can eliminate system inefficiencies and improve the experience for individuals and families. So many great programs and anti-hunger efforts are already in motion throughout the Sunflower State. It's imperative for the blueprint to complement the work underway and avoid duplication. By expanding technical assistance for the charitable food system, we can ensure this vital lifeline is best equipped to serve Kansans. We can better treat and prevent chronic diet-related disease by building on existing efforts to implement and scale. Food is medicine, And by integrating food access into local planning efforts, we can empower communities to better understand their needs and tailor solutions accordingly. We need to invest in our farmers, processors, and grocers. Ensure our rural and frontier communities can keep their local grocery store and support the college student who doesn't know where their next meal will come from, whether they're just out of high school or returning to school later in life. The blueprint is not a master plan for ending hunger. It's a movement, a call to action for communities and our leaders. A set of ideas to rally around and enact together. A means of eliminating inequities, combating food insecurity, and empowering Kansans to thrive.
Feel like I want to give a round of applause, you know? So that's a big shout out to Drew and the team here. And again, I'm just always so inspired having watched that video and actually had the opportunity to join Fuse Kansas prior to me stepping into this role. And it was an honor, and really excited to see what future Fuse Kansas events look like. So anyway, having said all of that, I think I want to dive into the details a bit more on the blueprint and what exactly is within our goals. We highlighted it in that video. Drew touched on it, but let's go through them one by one. I also see in the chat someone asked about the 400 strategies that we reviewed. We do have a summary report that I'll be able to follow up with folks, and I'll make a note that we include it in the webinar materials or post-webinar materials, so you have access to that. But I think really, like I said, want to dive into the goals and the strategies, and as Drew touched on, we really want to keep in mind that these strategies are about systems change. You know, these are not quick fixes. We're talking about our efforts on where there are existing gaps, but also making sure that we're not duplicating efforts, and really want to improve the leadership and attention on these particular strategies. So with that, we're going to start with strategy number 1 on food systems mapping and data. And this is all about improving data and technology. And we absolutely have to know, where we are to determine in our metrics and how we're making progress. This is around food systems mapping is also to support individuals and where they can find, help and support, but also our network overall. Around, integrated data, we want the data is coming from so many different places. And so how can we put into place those shared agreements and working with our state agencies. This is going to be a long process, but Drew, you've been intimately involved on integrated data projects and your past work in Pennsylvania. Is there more you'd like to add on this particular strategy?
Yeah, I think the thing that I would say here is I think everybody knows how important this is, and I think everyone talks about like the aspirations around this type of thing. And what we thought was like we really need a mechanism to like make this come to fruition, and we think that can happen here. So there's been a lot of really good conversations around the ways that we can bring that about. I think there's more information to come soon about like exactly how. But my point is I think this is one that like it can be used as an item to kind of kick the can down the road every now and then, and we will not let that happen here. So my point is, I think we all know the need. I think there's some real opportunity for progress in Kansas on this, and I think there's a lot more information we can share soon. But the other thing I wanted to say is we will not let this become a way to, kind of spark paralysis around some of this stuff. This is something that has to be usable information, and it has to be accessible at scale, and we'll make sure that comes to fruition. So thanks, Erika. I appreciate the opportunity to kind of touch on that.
Yeah. And I think on strategy 3, really around web-based applications and making that improving that process for individuals and families who are trying to access public benefits to support with their basic needs. So primarily what we're talking about here is SNAP application process, and I'll touch more on that a bit later. But we really want to modernize that process for individuals and improving that user experience, again, for beneficiaries, but also for organizations who are assisting with that work. And I think just highlighting all over on this particular goal and section of the blueprint, it feels even more relevant than it did back in February when in prior as we were building this, and just how critical it's going to be for our state in Kansas to have this information, especially as additional resources are either being eliminated or postponed or revamped or going away entirely at the federal level. So just wanted to touch on that and how this is such a priority. As we move on to goal number 2, which is really around enhancing service quality and access. And so starting off as our slides are moving forward, really wanted to touch on local food planning and the importance that that is with existing local planning efforts. And I'm really proud to highlight that there are 8 individual communities, we're calling them food secure communities, that I'll discuss a bit later in the presentation, where the Kansas Food Action Network is really taking a lead on piloting and testing. So I think there's some great work that's taking place on local food planning. I think we might have a stalled slide. Do folks see goal number 2? There we are. Okay, fantastic. Also, so I just touched on strategy 4. Also, strategy 5 is around resource and referral tool. So again, as you'll see, like so many of these are interwoven, and that's very, very intentional. So this is some work that has already been taking place at the state level and with the tool Unite Kansas. And we really think that this will be a critical resource, but again, both to help community-based organizations and individuals, or folks who are, as well as folks in our healthcare system, to be a tool that we can direct individuals to going forward. Food is Medicine is getting lots of attention and movement. I'll touch on this a bit more as one of our priority strategies at the moment, but this is really geared towards around prevention and managing chronic conditions and diet-related diseases, and how we can develop a model here in Kansas to scale this work and ultimately get some of those benefits and programs and services reimbursed under our healthcare system. On nutrition and meal sites, this is a great strategy as well, and we'll be sharing and highlighting some of the work that's taking place on really around that technical assistance to support food pantries and how we can improve that experience for individuals who are accessing food pantries and that type of work. When we move on to goal number 3, which is around supporting target populations and really I'm adding here, I think, as Drew touched or talked about, that this is an evolving document. We think that it should be iterative, but it's a really, really strong foundation. And as we learn and continue to gather feedback, we will continue to tweak it and improve it and make it relevant. But again, it is a roadmap that we are utilizing, and I am referencing every single day on how, we're prioritizing our resources and time and attention. So supporting target populations in that initial feedback, the struggles that often college students are facing. We have intentions of creating a grant program in the future that would really focus on this. Right right now, there is some work that is taking place, and I'll touch on that a little bit further on in the presentation. Around strategy 9, this is on our producers, processors, grocers. This is really a big bulk of work on local food systems, and so there is so much taking place here as well around establishing local regional hubs, and I think, again, tremendous opportunity going forward and some great progress that we have already been making over these last several months and prior to that as well. And then, of course, focusing on rural communities and wanting to establish a stabilization fund and a grant program, particularly for rural grocers. I come from a family of rural grocers myself, and my grandpa often said, you know, you have to, in order to have a community, you have to have a grocery store. And so that is one. So it's just it's a near and dear place in my own heart and experience, and have seen that firsthand. So moving on to our next slide, I'll also just kind of pause, and if folks have reaction, to some of what I've said. I touched on this a little bit, but I just really want to, I'm so proud of the incredible work that all of your organizations are doing across the state, and how we are tracking and want to, again, make sure that we're coordinating together and understand what the right hand and left hand are doing as we work towards these big goals of ultimately reaching a hunger-free Kansas. So under strategy 1, there is some tremendous work that is underway. It has kind of been happening behind the scenes, and we look forward to sharing more with you in the months to come. But there's some great support, and from many of our foundations who are interested in supporting nutrition security work across the state, including the Sunflower Foundation, that has been taking a big lead here on our food systems mapping work. Integrated data and some additional support from the Kansas Health Foundation, and really getting in place what that work could look like going forward. So again, more to come, and I just will put in a plug right now for a post-webinar survey, so you can share with us what you are most interested in as these 10 strategies. Maybe there are pieces that we aren't aware of and are missing, and definitely want to be able to highlight and track and uplift that in future webinars such as this, as well as our communications. Around local food planning, I touched on the great work that Kansas Food Action Network is leading and supporting with our 8 food secure communities in those locations throughout the state. They're doing tremendous deep dive work that I think will certainly be able to be replicated and shared across our state. No, yeah, and seeing some good reactions there. Strategy 7, we will include in the chat, as well as in the post-webinar materials, so how you can get involved in the Food Pantry Collaborative, and to participate and to share and learn best practices from one another. And that's through great support from Blue Cross Blue Shield of Kansas and the Pathways Initiative. We have implemented, I think there are nearly 100 or close to 100 mass action grantees and work that is taking place statewide, which is phenomenal. And some of those do include activations and projects that are on several college campuses. And just again, calling out great work of the Kansas Health Food Initiative, which is focused on our rural grocers and access to improve the health of Kansans, and also to support that economic development component in our rural communities. On the next slide, kind of wanted to highlight again where we are headed in terms and what we have been really focused on, and that is SNAP, I touched on that in my remarks earlier, but again, this is even more, this was identified as a priority and area of focus before the HR1 was implemented and, excuse me, enacted in July, but it's even more relevant and more urgent than was when we set off on this work earlier in the year. And so really looking to support our partners at the state level, at DCF and elsewhere, to reduce those error rate of error payments, both overpayments and underpayments. So good work happening on that front. The resource and referral tool, again, it was in place prior to this blueprint. So we really want to kind of improve that, get utilization up, get your feedback, and help to support this as a tool that will really help the network overall. And then focused on food as medicine and our local food systems, so producers, processors, and grocers. So we are working to create a steering committee that is focused on advancing what a statewide plan could look like, what would be involved, what are the policy levers that we are interested in advocating for and working towards, again, with that ultimate goal of reimbursable benefits that are directly tied to chronic conditions and disease. As a part of that, we are launching a broader learning series, and we kick off that learning series. It will be about, I think we have about 10 learning webinars planned at the moment, and we kick that off next week. So there's a little pre-plug, and we'll make sure that you all have that link to register. So that was a lot of talking, and but I just was excited to share that there is so much activity happening, and it's happening because of everyone that is in all of the entities and organizations that are represented here in this diagram. And I just want to put out a big thank you and a recognition to the Kansas Health Foundation, and great foundation that they put in place. I love foundation and foundation, but the roots maybe that exist, and that I, and alongside many of you, are looking to advance, and ultimately with that goal of ending hunger and increasing food security for all Kansans. So it's going to take every single one of these sectors. I truly believe that we can end hunger. This is not this is one of those problems, and that we know the solutions exist, and so that is what we are certainly working towards. So Drew, I'll pause there and just see if you have anything to add, but I think all of us have a strength to bring, and that's really what we're trying to build in this work going forward.
Sure. I think what I want to say here is that, like, I know you all hear a lot from us at the Kansas Health Foundation about the need for collaboration and the need for us to all be heading in the same direction. And I just want to also acknowledge how much disruption can occur as a result of that need. And what I want to say just really quickly is all of you have been so wonderful in trying to figure out your part and how we all come together around this stuff. And that is not lost on us. We talk all the time about how much we appreciate folks' willingness to adapt and be flexible and to rethink these problems. And that is truer in this space than it is in many others. So just great job, and like, keep doing what you're doing. And thank you so much for all of your willingness to try to keep your head down and figure out these problems. It's not easy, and as evidenced by some of these comments in the chat here, things have changed a lot even since this blueprint was developed. And your willingness to stick with it, it does not go unrecognized, and we appreciate it a lot.
Thanks, Drew. So I think I just want to sum up, and I think we had scheduled this for 45 minutes. I guess I didn't plan on us, Drew, talking so much about, introducing ourselves, but if folks have time.
The Gap band deserves time,
Yeah.
okay?
Yeah, that's right, that's right.
Yeah.
But if folks do have time to stick around before their next, you know, their next meeting or event or obligation, Drew and I are here and want to definitely answer questions that you might have. So, but I just wanted to kind of sum up where we are going and what is next. We are entering into, you know, as we it's almost a new year. I can't believe we're entering into November here. So it is fourth quarter and doing all that planning for 2026 and looking forward to an even more, you know, impactful year and driving a lot of these strategies in this plan forward. I also at Hunger Free Kansas, it is a new entity and an initiative of the Kansas Health Foundation. So there's a lot of work to be in those fundamentals of an organization and a structure that are being put into place. So very much building the plane while flying it. And I can say that, you know, as it is based in Wichita and aviation, like capital of the world, I believe. Don't quote me on that, but I think it is that type of fact. And so a long way of saying that we are working on our communication and our overall awareness of Hunger Free Kansas, of the blueprint, of the work that your organizations, your challenges, the needs that and the increased need of Kansans that are struggling with hunger and those programs and benefits that are shifting and changing or being eliminated and what those implications are on real lives. So a lot of that type of work, again, focus on the implementation of aspects of each of these strategies. And we are seeking additional funding and to support for direct service as well as grant opportunities to pilot, to try things around, for instance, food is medicine, and efforts underway there. So there may be some future opportunities that folks could participate in, but certainly we have to raise resources from all sources and sectors to meet the needs of today. Focus on shared metrics. That's going to be a big undertaking, and I look forward to, you know, working with each of you to come up with what that looks like for Hunger Free Kansas and our state overall. And then, of course, just general advancement of advocacy and policy work and how to be a supportive partner. So on that front too, I think post webinar, we have real actions that can be taken right now around SNAP, for instance, and our partners at Kansas Appleseed sent out some great tools and materials for folks to be able to advocate on and about the importance of SNAP right now and during this government shutdown. So things like that are all where we're headed, and we will just absolutely continue to report back, to share data, and invite you to communicate and talk with us as much as you can and would like to, and ultimately, again, working towards hunger free and more resilient Kansas. So I'm just very, very grateful for all the work that you're doing. And with that, I will open it up for Q&A. And if folks do have to drop off, I'll just let you know you will be receiving a recording and additional slides. And we would love to have your input from a post webinar survey. And it also includes some questions about which strategies of the blueprint you would like to be most involved in. So I just want to put a plug in for that in case you have to drop off, and maybe we can put that link in the chat as well. But in the meantime, I will pause and look for additional questions. And just again, thank you for all that you do. Look in the chat here, Drew. I
I was
just
just gonna
think
say,
yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like some of these questions that Donna's posed about like target populations, I think there's a really great questions because again, as we've said before, we have a document that has certain aspirations in it, and our context that we're operating in changes. And I think some reconsideration of like how we think about target populations kind of has to occur as a result of that. So while I feel like I don't have any answers around that, I just appreciate the question and the discernment around that, because I think, what's happening contextually really influences how we should be spending our time. So yeah, that's a non-answer to a great question.
Yeah. Yeah. I also saw, maybe it was Donna as well, who included in here, questions or thoughts around how the SNAP waiver policy, applies to many of these strategies. And absolutely, I think I was on a call last week with, a variety of stakeholders in DCF on that particular policy. So it's going to be really critical too that we're supporting, our retailers and rural grocers in that work, as well as on the food as medicine front. So thanks for that plug. Absolutely, it is a part of this work for sure. Just as I don't know if I'm missing any others, and we'll certainly look through the chat. But I am just curious if there are any particular, strategies that folks here still on the line are most interested in. If there was anything, that Drew or I talked about that you wanted to raise or uplift, certainly all ears on that front. But
I'll just underline the opportunity that you just mentioned about the related to the SNAP. Although, like in Kansas, they didn't. I don't think that when I read through their waiver announcement that they called out as much of the trying to, because theirs was before all the MAHA, if I remember right. All the MAHA report stuff. But I think there's this really interesting opportunity that we have. And if we're not careful, it could go in a really wild and crazy direction. So that's why I called that out, is that I feel like if we should be advocating for more of our voices to be part of that effort, so that the programs that are available in Kansas that do help steer people or incentivize people to eat healthier can actually be, like, okay, so you don't want people to be buying candy and sweets and things and soda pop with their SNAP benefits. And I know we all probably have feelings about that policy, but can we say something? Can we turn that in a positive direction and say, okay, then put your money where your mouth is, and say you don't want them to be spending their dollars on this, but how do we increase their access to healthy fresh fruits and vegetables, and also, how are you, state of Kansas, beautiful state of Kansas, how are you actually going to put your money where your mouth is and support those efforts? Just saying, this is a great opportunity. Missouri actually is trying to move in that direction. And so, like, I'm also trying to get, the folks in Missouri to be part of that conversation, so we don't get, like, things twisted in a weird way, and we get to be part of the conversation.
Yeah. Well, I think full agreement here, Donna, and makes a lot of sense. So more to come on that. Would love to schedule some time, post webinar to discuss that with you. I think that there were a variety of other questions. and can handle them, individually. And this is a great chance for me to follow up with folks and to get to know you and more about your organizations. I think there was one on sustainability of Hunger Free Kansas. Certainly, Hunger Free Kansas was established as an initiative under the Kansas Health Foundation with about 3-year runway to really get off the ground. So that's where we are at the moment, and really looking to build and again complement existing work, and not duplicate. So that, but yes, as any entity or all of you know, it does take resources to operate, but I fully believe in the power of collaboration and how we are supporting one another and not duplicating efforts, but really lifting up. So there was also a question too on WIC, and I think that there are a variety of resources that I can follow up on that front. And I don't know if my colleagues have any access to the Kansas Appleseed toolkit in the moment, to include in the chat, but we'll certainly share it in the follow-up materials post webinar. I just think that would be a phenomenal resource. And the National WIC Association, Pamela, is where I would draw your attention to. And there's some additional resources and support at that national level. So
I've got a question. I know that the harvester, we've had harvester trucks come to a lot of the rural areas, and recently that has ceased. So I'm wondering though, harvester had some networking going on. Was any of that included in this? Like they were purchasing local farm commodities and then taking them through the system. So was any of that part of your strategies to look at, since they're not able to do that? I think that was some funding from the government, but throughout Kansas, harvester trucks have really, they have, like we probably had in my county, they came like 5 times a month. Now they're coming twice, less than half. So
yeah, so
just
and happy to make those connections directly with the folks at Harvesters to help and support. But if I'm picking up on the question correctly, there was a federal program that was funding was eliminated that supported local farmers and additional produce purchasing. So that has dramatically reduced. That is true. So but again, happy to connect with you. We have fantastic food bank partners here across the state of Kansas, 3, and including the Kansas Food Bank, which is serving 85 counties across the state. So again, as far as a direct strategy, and Drew, feel free to chime in. I think it aligns in getting more, produce and local food to individuals across our communities is absolutely a goal. And I think it shows up in many of the strategies within the blueprint.
Yeah, I would double down. Sorry, Leslie, go ahead.
Oh, what food bank were you saying? Because my local food people don't know that. So what food bank was that?
Where are you located?
Potawatomi County. So our local food banks were also purchasing from Harvester. They can't do that anymore. So Harvester was our connection. And then you're talking about SNAP. So we just started having a SNAP food council trying to get some things aligned. And then they pulled all the SNAP funding. So we're still trying to do that, but there's no SNAP educator. There was, all of that went away too. So it's just interesting how that, we kind of taking a step forward, and then all of a sudden we're back.
Back.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think absolutely there is work under our food as medicine strategy and that plan to improve and to look at nutrition education, community nutrition, and recognizing that SNAP education that funding largely was eliminated as of September 30th. So again, lots happening, and I think that's why your voices are so critical, and absolutely more to come. But utilizing this blueprint as a messaging document, and other ways to take action can really help raise awareness about the issues that you're struggling with. And I'd be happy again to connect with you separately about what your specific needs are in your community, and have those resources. So let's do that. And just recognizing that we are about 5 minutes to the hour, and folks have additional obligations. So if we can move to the next slide, I just wanted to share our contact information and how you can reach us. Also, the connect at Hunger Free Kansas email and inbox is a great way to reach us and to share your thoughts and ideas or concerns. And we will be sure to follow up with you, hopefully by tomorrow morning. That's our goal. Sometimes it takes a little bit of time to get the webinar recording in full process to disseminate and upload and those sorts of things. But we're just so grateful for your time and for your interest and for being a part of this effort with all of us. So thanks again. And Drew, any final last words?
Just thank you, thank you. And like, we know that times are tough and that it can feel bleak at moments, but just keep doing what you're doing and keep reaching out to us. If we can be of support in any way, shape, or form, we'd be happy to talk in any way about anything that we could do. So thank you, and really appreciate everything that you all do.
Take care, y'all.